Hi, I'm Sydney, one half of Team Hugh 2. My teammate Erin will join us in just a moment. We are two master students working on a website to help educators learn more about AI. Our site, which we call Explained, now with two eyes to help emphasize the AI in ed at the end and set us apart, is not that visually different from last week. You may not even be able to tell that we changed the homepage image slightly to match up the background image with the hero image. That's because this week's top priority was adding the first draft of our first lesson, though we continue to experiment with several visual and functional aspects of the site as well as our branding. However, more than anything, we needed to start getting the content fleshed out. As you can see here, we've added more pages. We know the setup will likely change. One thing we realized this week is there's no clear path for us yet with our information architecture. A big challenge with our technology is that it's so broad and multifaceted and new that even the way people speak about the major terms and concepts, some of which are theoretical, is still emerging. That has made it a little bit more difficult to know what to include and where. We are also still really learning about AI ourselves, but because we're creating content in real time, we don't really have a big picture view of the site yet. And while we are nervous about that, it feels like it presents great opportunities for continuous improvement and refinement. Nevertheless, we spent quite a bit of time going over what we would consider a digestible amount of information in our first lesson, which you can see here. After a lot of back and forth via Slack, as well as one near-death experience with the block editor, we think we have landed on a decent format for our first lesson. We've adopted a form of micro-learning and hope to eventually build in plenty of interactivity, though we are still working out some of the kinks with some of our plugins. We also ended up doing a little bit more this week than originally planned, which is what this box down here is, as well as the comments box below. We did add a simple activity to accompany our lesson, partially to test overall key features, and partially to test out using AI directly on the site. Now I'm going to pass it to Erin to talk about that aspect further and talk about our next steps.
Thank you, Sydney. As Sydney just mentioned, one of the things we ended up doing this week was integrating AI into the site itself. We think it would be nice to have our users experiment with AI directly on the site, so we implemented a ChatGPT-inspired chatbot via OpenAI's API for our activity this week. We soon discovered that unlike using ChatGPT on its dedicated website, it's not free to make calls to OpenAI's API. So one new challenge for us is to figure out a more sustainable way to keep the chatbot on the site other than us just paying for it out of pocket. As a precaution, we did go ahead and add a password to the page, which we'll include with our link in Drive. As Sydney also pointed out, we need to figure out our overall plan for the site and the topics that we're covering. We may not be able to plot out every section or piece of content yet, but we agree that we need to slow down for a moment and come up with some kind of roadmap for ourselves. We also need to decide how our lessons will look. We're lucky in that we landed on a fairly strong overall visual identity very early on. As we work to fine-tune our logo, other graphic elements, we're also working on translating and expanding this identity further for our inner learning page layouts. We want our brand and site to be fun and colorful while still being user-friendly and following UX best practices. Above all, we want our content and design to best serve our users on their journeys as they learn about AI. So we plan to continue experimenting with designs to find the right balance between engaging and distracting. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon to talk about our Alpha 75.